Welcome to the DevReady podcast. Joining me on the DevReady podcast today, I have Mark from Magnetic Alliance. Thanks for joining me, Mark.
Hey, how's it going, Anthony? Good to meet you.
It's been good. Yeah, it's great to meet you as well. I know not much about you or your background, so I will let you take care of the introduction because I will do a terrible job.
Yeah, sure. So, my name's Mark. I'm the founder and CEO of Magnetic Alliance. We look at business growth, we specialize in business growth, and we just focus everything we do around growing businesses. We've been around for 13 years, just celebrated our 13th anniversary a few days ago. And yeah, in the last 13 years, we've helped businesses in over 150 industries, and we've helped them grow their business by over $2 billion in total over all those years. So yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. In that journey, we've also been able to accumulate 7 businesses that we have either started or acquired, and also have grown those. And we've been growing for the last 12 out of the last 13 years. 2020, we went back a tiny bit with a few things that happened during that time. But apart from that, it's been growth the whole entire way. So it's kind of like getting that 4.9 Google review. It's like, that one Google review that just makes you a 4.9 instead of a 5. But you know what? It's cool. We never expected to be like this. We never expected to have 12 out of 13 years consecutive growth. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and it's been a huge eye opener into the world of small to medium or even large private businesses.
Well, congratulations on the 13 years. I know it's not easy to be around for business for that long. We've
Yeah.
been almost 17 now,
Oh
a little bit
wow.
longer. Having that much growth from your end, the 12 out of 13, that's probably exactly what you want from a business growth specialist. If they're not going to be able to grow their own business, then you're going to be a bit worried about how can they grow yours generally.
Well, that's the thing. Like I would expect that that's what how people would who are in the market helping people out would be like. That's what I would have been looking for back in the day when I was earlier in the journey. However, a lot of business people who kind of go out there and talk about growth, they haven't grown their business for a long time. You know, they're quite stagnant in many ways. So we just like walking the talk. We just like to, to lead by example and do what we say we're going to do and deliver results. That's the main thing.
And that's what you need to do. You need to stand by what you say and you can deliver it because you can do it for yourself, which is a hole you see with a lot of consultants. Normally it's, they don't, they probably can talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk themselves.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Or a lot of them don't like getting dirty and into the weeds of actually doing things. They just advise and walk away. I'm not sure how you guys operate, so it's not a comment on you guys.
well, that's the thing. Like a lot of people like to do the easy, fun stuff. Like tell people what to do, but don't actually help them do it. So that's I think a big difference is we do a lot of the difficult things that a lot of people don't want to do. So that's how we got started, because when we were a startup, we had a lot of competitors in the space already who were been there for a long, long time, like big firms. You got all the independents and everything. And so we ended up getting the jobs that no one wanted to take on because it was too hard and too risky for them, but we did it. And we built a bit of a reputation for doing those things. And eventually we created a business around it. So yeah, we ended up doing a lot of implementation work and a lot of work that would actually result in growth. So it's a good way for us to get started and to grow ourselves. So yeah, it's probably the big difference is that we do a lot of things that a lot of those companies can't do themselves, and they would probably say you should do this, but they're not going to help actually do it.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of them, they're either people have been in business for a while and they're at like a management level or a C-suite or an executive level. They haven't been at that low levels doing the work for quite a while. That's generally a lot of people you see from my experience in that sort of like consulting in business consulting area.
Yeah, that's right. So you get a few different kinds, right? So you got the big, big, big firms that the SME market just cannot afford. right? They're the guys with the resources and teams and stuff, and big companies are the ones who use those guys. You've got the ex executives like you're talking about with the experience, but they're not going to get hands on. They're not going to get dirty, and it's been a while since they've actually done work. They've done a lot of management stuff. And then
Yep.
you've got the people who, you know, they buy a business coaching franchise or something like that. They get a whole bunch of templates and methods and they get some training, and, you know, they might have run a cafe or they might have, you know, done some other form of business that, you know, they thought, this is not exciting enough for me, or it's not going too well. I'll try coaching because it seems like a lucrative industry. So they get into it, but they don't have the experience. So, you know, it was an interesting market. There's a lot of people out there, and if you have a look at KPMG, for example, they've got 160,000 staff. So, you know, as someone who is new breaking into the market, we were finding our place in it.
Yep.
And it was an interesting thing to go, okay, no one wants to do these things. We'll do these things. And, you know, they're hard and risky, but they're very helpful once you get them done and very useful for businesses. So, yeah, that's how we got going. And, yeah, that's the kind of marketplace that we have.
So you found that niche where everyone was sort of ignoring because it's not, yeah, getting like it's not playing to their strengths, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So what got you started on this journey? You said it was a startup. What was a brief bit of history before you got to that point to say, all right, I'm going to go out on my own and do something new?
Yeah, so about 13 odd years ago, or a bit before that, I had corporate experience. I worked in a big company, and I was in a position where it was an undefined role. So I kind of was the guy that was borrowed for a few weeks by the boss, right? Because my boss was overseas. So the big boss ended up borrowing me and threw me a couple of things to help them with. And I ended up getting them done. And they thought, okay, well, you know, we've got a bit more time, so let's give you another thing. Got that done. And then they started throwing me more and more and more things, and I just kept getting them done. And in the process of doing that, I got to experience working with so many different facets of the organization. I would work with the legal team, the marketing team, the IT team, the finance team, all the different teams in the business, from the top to the bottom. I was able to work with the mergers and acquisitions, the sales guys, the operational guys. So I got to experience a broad range of things at a very, very early stage. And what ended up happening was, eventually I thought, I would love to bring this kind of assistance to the small business world.
Yep.
And, you know, small businesses don't have that kind of like head office where they have all those functions. They have
No, they don't.
someone who is good at their craft, their trade, their industry. Like there might be a mechanic, an electrician, whatever it is that they do, a building contractor. They're good at their thing, but they're not good at the business side. And they have to find so many pieces of the puzzle. They have to talk to all these different companies who do all sorts of specialized things. And they're struggling to fit those puzzle pieces together. And most of them are invisible as well. They don't know what they don't know. So they don't even know what the puzzle looks like. So I thought this would be an interesting thing to provide out there to the market. And yeah, that's how we got started. And the thing was, we weren't trying to sell a widget. We didn't have a product to sell. We were working with people to get a result. So no matter what needed to be done to get there, we would figure it out. So it was an unusual thing. That's how we got started, and that's the background to this business.
It would have been a bit of a hard sell. It's just whatever you need, we deliver.
Actually, yeah, it was at the beginning, because people would ask, "What do you do?" And at the start, we couldn't articulate it. It was like,
Yep.
"Well, we help businesses grow and we fix problems," and so it was difficult, right? So it was a hard sell, and we didn't know how to price it either. How do you kind of like work on stuff, and how do you charge? What's your revenue model? What's your charging mechanism? That's what a lot of people ask us. How do you actually charge? And instead of coming up with one, we just had multiple depending on what had to be done.
Just test it.
So eventually we worked it out, but the first few years were tough to really establish what our messaging was, what we were actually creating, and after it took about 7 years until we fully matured into that and go, okay, we know what we do. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is how it's different. This is why it's valuable. That's how long it took before we could answer all those questions, because it took all those years to create and develop what we actually did. So it's a lot of time investment in it, many late nights, and many hours, and
I can
many
imagine.
frustrations.
It does take a long time to craft your message, especially when you're in the service business similar to ours. It's trying to find the niche and then speaking to them in the way that they can understand, which doesn't also undervalue what you're offering.
Yeah.
But that's always a challenge. Because I'm
Yes.
assuming, yeah, people can say growth, or all right, where you're going to get me sales, but they may not understand that growth can also come from internal process improvement, efficiencies, and operational things, not just sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of what we experienced was people who were looking for growth, were looking for more sales, but they actually had different problems.
Yep.
And a lot of the people that we ended up work with had a lot of sales and they had a lot of problems and they couldn't grow. So they were trying to figure out, well, why can't we grow? We've got a lot of sales. So there's capacity issues, there's people issues, there's all sorts of blockages in their organization that prevents them from growing. And that's actually the harder part. The easier part was getting the sales for a lot of these guys, because a lot of the people we work with, they're really good at what they did. They naturally had people coming to them. They built a reputation. They were well known in their market, and they couldn't grow because they had too much work and they couldn't get it done. So yeah, it's actually more risky when someone has way too much sales and they make those commitments without being able to deliver or maintain their quality, and they start having things break, and that's what stops a lot of people. It's a more difficult task because there's a number of things to do to be able to make that work.
Yeah, and you've probably got a variation of this question to clients, which would be if you got 100, 200, 300 sales or new clients tomorrow, could you handle it?
That's right.
And that'll probably give you a good indication of whether they've got things in place to be able to scale and be
Yes.
ready for growth, as opposed to, all right, start dissecting and understanding what process improvements you need to do. How's your culture? How's the team? How's the alignment to the outcomes? And then do you have the right people in place at the right levels to support that level of growth?
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people just don't have the basic business model, because in a small business, everyone does everything and they trip over each other. So there's not clear processes and systems of how they actually go about the growth process. They just start running around like they experience the big rush, and everyone's just trying to get things done and no one's getting things done in a way that helps them go through it in a streamlined process that is scalable.
And that's key, having that scalability. It's having information handovers correctly so then people can know how to pick up a task, not have two people working on the same file or same project, whatever it may be, where you don't need to have that duplication of effort.
Yeah,
Because when you do
definitely.
scale and you do get that growth, when we talk with clients, it's a similar thing. So it's, all right, you can go ahead with this software, but if you only have, say, 10 staff, saving 5 minutes a day isn't going to do much. If you have hundreds or thousands of staff, that 10 minutes a day can be two, three people's like FTE equivalent hours over a year that you're saving just because of the scale that you have. And that's the problem you will get with those businesses. It's once they get to scale, the efficiencies, the lack of efficiency shows, and it shows you how much time gets wasted across those tasks, which will prevent them from being able to deliver whatever the outcome is.
Yeah, definitely. And especially with things like software, it there's things that are required before you can build the software, right?
Yep.
They need to know what they actually want to build.
Yes.
So they need to design it, they need to spec it out, they need to tell you what they actually want. And a lot of people can't do that. So it's the same with other areas. Like they want to market, but they don't have the necessary prerequisites to be able to do that. they don't even know what the pieces of those puzzles are. So they struggle to get the outcome. And I have an interesting software development story back in the day where I was asked to join a team with developing a software. It was with Accenture, I think was the company who was coming in as the outside consultant.
Yep.
And this company had a $90 million budget to build an existing software. Really, it's just to configure SAP, right?
Yep.
And
Huge contract.
I already knew from the ground, having my experience, that the company did things in different ways. Every single location did everything differently from each other because they were left without any processes and systems or ways of doing things. So what ended up happening was I said, look, we need to map how everything works and we need to standardize it first so that we can tell the system what to do. And the CIO in charge of project said, oh, that will take 5 years to do. And we don't have that time. We'll just figure it out along the way. I said, well, I don't think you can. Like, this is going to take a long time. You're going to have a lot of arguments and it's not going to work. And they said, look, we'll work it out. We'll work it out. We've got the funds. We've got the people. We've got the analysts. We've got the project managers. We've got all the technical people. We'll work it out. And I said, look, I'm going to back out of this project. I don't think it'll work. I don't want to be a part of it. So I pulled out of that project. And about 2 years later into the project, they had spent $30 million. And they pulled up and said, we can't do this. Like, we don't know what we're building. We don't know what to build. Everything is done differently. And we don't know what to tell the system what to do because we don't have a process to follow. And they just cut it off at $30 million. Took the loss. The CIO lost his job.
Yeah.
And they just went back to what they had.
It's just a complete failure without understanding the risks really up front. We get asked a lot like, all right, how can I add AI to my business? Mm-hmm. And when we start looking into the business, they didn't even have the processes in place to bring software in, let alone bring AI on top of the software to try and improve it again.
Yeah.
So it's unless you know how you should operate or how you need to operate to be able to deliver what you're doing, and that's a repeatable process, you can't bring software in because software has to be, it does one thing and then it just repeats it. So unless you can make that model, it doesn't work.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's something where you have to be black and white. You have to tell it exactly what you need and want.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of people are vague with what they need and want. They don't want to go into the detail. Even when we actually go through some of these processes and you take someone who's been there for 3, 4, 5 years and they do this job every single day and you go, okay, tell me how you do your job. And when you start mapping it out, they go, oh, no, it's like this. No, but then we do this. And then someone else says, no, we do it this way. And then, it's a 4-hour conversation to figure out a small part of the process. And that's the thing that's tough about it. It's hard work. It's mental work. And it's hours of work. And many months of that mental energy being spent. And you feel like you're going in a very small, slow pace. But sometimes when you do that and you invest the time in those things, then you end up with getting the result. You're able to build something that no one else has got because no one else was willing to go through the hard work and the hours and the energy and the brain drain that you had to go through to build that thing. And that's what we find in small businesses. They just don't have the capacity to be able to do that. But that's what sets businesses apart. And that's what's set some of our businesses apart, our own internal businesses, where we were able to develop things that took us 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Mm-hmm. Then we had it built and it gave us a huge advantage compared to everyone else. So I think from a business owner point of view, it's easier just to do what you already do. And it's very easy to want something and say, look, I want this. And within a month, 2 months, you want to get the result. That's not how it works in the business world. If you want to get something of value, then you go and invest in it. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort. That's what a lot of people really miss out on in the small business world, because they are usually trying to do 1,000 things. And instead of doing 1,000 things, they should only try and do one thing, or, three things max. But they're trying to do 1,000 things, and they're not finishing any of those 1,000 things.
Yep.
So
It's trying to keep up, trying to continue on as usual, and then adjusting to changes as things come in, or you've got new clients or customers that are asking for different things. So you then concede and make changes, and now whatever half process you had in place is now a quarter of a process, because now there's another 3 or 4 branches coming out of that in case these different scenarios happen. It's a difficult thing to manage as a small business, and especially as a startup. Like you're wearing many hats at once. What's some advice you can give to those businesses? I know stopping, taking time to think and actually start mapping out, but what are some specific advice you can give to those small businesses or startups that are looking to improve a process and get on the right path to growth?
well, it's a good question, and I'm sure that a lot of small businesses are not going to like this answer. But if they really want to grow, they've got to give it a long term, right? I always say, look for at least a 10-year period where your business
Well,
can grow. And they don't like that. They want to
yep.
grow this month. They want to grow this week. They want to grow in the next, few weeks or few months. And they want to see results straight away. And you can get small results that way, small results, but nothing big is going to happen in a period of a couple of months, right? So it's like, yeah, you can go to the store and get some fruit. You can buy some fruit from the supermarket. But if you want to get a farm, you've got to put in the work to cultivate that farm, find the property, plant everything, and set everything up. And then you'll have a huge amount of whatever it is that you plant. But people don't give themselves enough time to succeed. They go, oh, if this doesn't work in 1 year or 2 years, then I'm out. Well, if you're going to have that mindset in your business to go, if this doesn't work, I'm out, then it's not never going to work, right? Because of the approach.
Yep.
So I always say, look, give yourself a 10-year period to start with, right? And some people might go, look, I may not have 10 years, right? Because I don't have the cash, or I'm getting older, and I'm already 40, I'm already 50. It's like 10 years, you'll be 60. It's still, I mean, if you're in a job, how long do you have to work anyway?
Yep.
So what's your other option there? So like, yeah, a 10-year period. So you have to really adjust your expectation as a business owner. Instead of going, I want it in 1 month or 2 months, look at a 10-year period, right? And make sure that you're chipping away every single day at something, right? A project, something you're building that will make your business better. A lot of people don't put in the investment. They put in band-aids. They go, okay, we'll sort this bit out today, and we'll band-aid this, and we'll band-aid that. And they've got 1,000 band-aids later, nothing's been built. So growth is, a lot of it is about building something. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to invest in that. And I get it, because as a small business owner, you have limited funds, you have limited time, and you have 1,000 things to do. That's the dilemma. That's the challenge. That's the challenge that a small business has to solve to get over the line and make it past the graveyard of the 96 to 99% of businesses who fail within 10 years, right? Yep. And this is the stat that I got at the beginning of the journey. I went to a seminar, business seminar, and they talked about those stats of 50% of businesses fail in year 1. 90% of businesses fail within year 5. And 96 to 99% fail by year 10. So in my mind already, when I started, I just have to get to year 10.
Yep.
That's what gave me that 10-year time horizon to go, if I can make it to year 10 and outlive the 99% or 96% of businesses who end up failing within 10 years, then that's when I go, okay, cool. We've established ourselves. So that's where I got my time frame from.
Okay.
And I've seen a lot of people who are in that 10-year mark, they do make it well past the 10-year mark. And I actually didn't believe that stat at the beginning of 50% of businesses die in their first year. I was in an office with 25 suites around me of small businesses. And I did see a turnover within 10 years that we were there. I did see that no one in the same floor as us, apart from one business who came in a few years later, actually remained. People were
Yep.
opening and closing and opening and closing, opening, new startup, closing. And we were the only ones there for 10 years, plus another one who was there a few years later with us. But everyone else just started and stopped.
Yeah.
So we met a lot of people starting up businesses.
It's not an easy thing to
Yeah,
run.
definitely not an
You
easy.
never know everything. You're
Yeah,
always learning, but you have to be willing and open to learn and
yeah,
try and
absolutely.
change
And people
things.
think that the longer you are there, the more you will know. Actually, the more you grow, the more you don't know,
Yeah.
because you're entering into new areas that you've never entered before, and you need specialized skills that you've never seen before or heard before. If you're a bigger business and you have to hire a marketing manager, that those people are going to have skill sets that you don't have. Yeah, IT people, they're going to have skill sets that you don't have. So you're going to know less. You're actually going to feel like you know less and less the more you grow. And that's where you need more specialized help. You need more assistance around you. And a lot of small businesses, they don't have the mindset of asking for help and even knowing that they need help. They try and do a lot of things themselves, and they're not never going to have the experience of the guy who spent 25 years doing their specialized skill set of doing accounting or marketing or whatever it is. But if you're a small business owner and you're good at your industry, and then you're trying to jump into something you don't know anything about, that's what I see very often. And a lot of small businesses stay small, unfortunately.
It's you don't know what you don't know. I think it's a case of that. But it's also, like we said earlier, it's just trying to keep up, keep it going so you can get to that next year. Because
That's the
a
other
lot of the
thing.
times it's just surviving.
A lot of those things also change. Like IT changes, the world of
Oh, it's so
technology
fast.
changes every day, every minute, right? How are you going to keep up as a small business owner if you're trying to fix someone's car or install some PowerPoints and run a group of guys who do that, and then keep up with all the compliance or all the new tech? And you have to have people who are good at that stuff, and you have to be able to allow them to help you.
Yeah, there's more than just the delivery of the thing that you're providing value through.
Yeah. A lot of small business owners, they're afraid to get an advisor, right? Afraid to bring in an expert. We have like dozens of people who are advisors to us. The more you grow, the more help you need. And
Yeah,
and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're dumber. You don't have to feel inadequate. You don't have to let the ego suffer a blow to say that you don't know what you're doing. It's about, hey, this person spent many years doing this. Of course, they're going to know more than me. You
yeah,
have to allow that to happen, rather than a lot of small business owners I see who stay small. They kind of want to know it all. They do everything. They've got their hands on everything, and they want to know everything that's going on, and they don't want to let go of anything. So sometimes you just have to go, here's the person I need help from. I'm going to let them help me, and they will work everything out. And I just have to work with them to give them the inputs so that they can give me the outputs. And it works better that way, instead of trying to meddle with things that you don't know about.
yeah. Because when you're small and if you're trying to do everything, each one of those things, different things that you do, as you scale, that becomes its own department, its own team, its own division. Like
Yeah.
they all scale in tandem. It's not just the service delivery aspect of whatever you're doing or the
Absolutely. And there's a lot
manufacturing.
of technical little nitty gritty things in there that business owners are just never going to get to. So
Yeah.
every time they do something, they leave a lot of holes. Let's just say, for example, they get a CRM, right? They somehow work out they need a CRM. They buy one or they pay for the subscription, and they just like go on and use it like a contact list on your phone. It's like they don't know how to configure it and set it up right and make sure everything, all the parameters are set and all the rules are in place and all the triggers and everything are working the way it should. They don't know how to do those things, but they try and just jump in and do it themselves rather than going, I need a hand with someone who knows how to do this and set it up and get it all done. And they go, oh, I'll save that money and I'll just I'll get the free trial and I'll spend the $75 a month and then I'll do it myself. It's like you're trying to recreate the wheel that someone's already created. Instead of doing what you do, you're now having time to spend doing what you're not good at.
Yep.
And so it takes away the time that you need to do what you're good at. And this is the mindset of businesses that stay small. I see all the time.
Yeah.
Not just the mindset, but their habits as well.
Yeah, I've got a phrase that I like to use. I can't remember where I heard it from, but it's when you hire someone or outsource something, you outsource the things you don't like doing, not the things you do, because you'll never do them as good as the things you enjoy. So if you can focus on what you enjoy doing better, you'll always do a better job at that than forcing yourself to do the things you don't like. So just because
absolutely.
So unless you want to learn to transition and that becomes your role. So if you want to become the CRM expert and be the key of marketing and shift what you're doing, feel free and then start that transition. But if you're not going to be that, do what you can and then get assistance to help you move it further. So I agree with that. Well, Mark, it's been a pleasure to speak to you today. If anyone wants to find out more about how you can actually help them grow their business and learn a bit more about what you guys do and how you offer your services, how can they do that?
Well, if they want to learn more about us, they can visit our website at this point, www.magneticalliance.com.au, and check us out. And then, just take it from there.
Not a problem. We'll add that link into the show notes and we'll share that out with everyone. Well, once again, Mark, it's been a pleasure to have you on and thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks very much, Anthony. Good to talk to you.
You too. Thank you.